Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is May 6, 2023, and there have been a few news that recently came out in May 4, so I wanted to make this quick video to give you guys a little bit of an update. Before I begin, I'm going to mention I'm not an immigration attorney. This channel does not represent any government organization or anything like this, but all of the information that is provided on this channel is directly from official government sources. So let's start with the very first thing that finally we got the update from the Department of State, from the CDC. Looks like no longer we will be required to have the COVID-19 vaccination for non-immigrant travel. Before, you're probably aware that if anybody is traveling to the United States that is not in immigration proceedings, if they're not, if they don't have any kind of petitions, any kind of immigration petitions, any kind of immigrant visas, they're in non-immigrant status and they're traveling to the United States, they would have to show the proof of COVID-19 vaccination. Not anymore, and this is going to be coming effective at the end of the day, May 11th. So everybody that is traveling to the United States after May 11th, starting May 12th, will not have to worry about showing any proof of the vaccination. So that's quick news on that. But the big news that recently came out from the Department of State have to do with another ILO committee meeting that happened on April 26, 2023. Now, if you're not familiar with what it is, basically it is the Assistant Legal Advisor for Consular Affairs, the LCA, from the Department of State. They meet up, I think it is usually once a month, with American Immigration Lawyer Association. And the AILA, American Immigration Lawyer Association, they ask that representative from the Department of State, important questions on immigration related issues, on the visas obviously, and on the processes in general. So we got the PDF of all the questions that have been asked. There are a few things that I wanted to share in this video. Obviously, we start with stuff that has to do with work visas, which is usually the case. And here we start with the Bloomberg law. I didn't know that the Bloomberg now has their own laws, but it has to do with the work visas. I'm not surprised because Bloomberg known to employ a lot of international workers, which seems to be like a great deal for international employees because they are able to come here to the United States and get some experience, work for American companies. But obviously, the real reason why they're doing it is because international labor is on the cheaper side compared to finding labor here in the United States of America. There were some questions on administrative process, specifically related to the refusals and the length of the time the applicants that have pending final adjudications. Basically, DAS, Julie Staff, confirmed that a new system has been implemented for administrative processing, which would help ameliorate lengthy administrative processing delays. Has this new system been implemented? And then the response, interestingly, from the Department of State was yes, that in the autumn of 2022, non-immigrant visa vetting was incorporated into the National Vetting Center. As a result of this change, vetting of non-immigrant visa applications is more efficient and in many cases may now be conducted without the need for additional administrative processing. Interestingly, because the question was asked and the answer was, yeah, we did it back in autumn 2022, and they still asked the question, guess they didn't really see the results of that implementation of that vetting system, so we will just skip on that. There was some questions about the general consular processing issues. Members report an ongoing trend of UNT visa applicants abroad being unable to complete biometrics and or schedule interviews, with consulates stating there is no appointments available, not responding or giving appointments so delayed that the petition validity will have expired by the time of the interview. Which is interestingly, it's not just UNT visa applicants. I would say there's a lot of different classes that are experienced a similar issue. But the response from the Department of State was, we acknowledge the delays that UNT, again, for some reason we are talking about UNT when it's actually the case for pretty much everyone else, visa applicants face in scheduling biometric appointment abroad. Like most of our operations, the COVID-19 pandemic impacted this process. everything, COVID-19 pandemic is a very convenient excuse for most of the times, seems like, for really most of the issues, even including the UNT visas. This process as biometric collection requires in-person fingerprinting on ink cards. Yes, makes sense. So DOS is working closely with US and overseas posts to provide this much needed service, and we're making progress in reducing these delays. Not really anything special of an answer, but we're moving further to Russian nationals, and I actually had a few comments from the viewers on this channel regarding this process, and the problem is basically that because US embassy is currently closed in Moscow, in Russia, for Russian nationals that have IV, the immigrant visa interviews, they actually have been scheduled in Warsaw, Poland, for their immigrant visa interviews. However, there is a problem with Russians traveling to Warsaw, Poland, and the problem is basically Russians cannot enter Poland and are reporting that they are either being denied or receiving their interview notifications so close to the interview date that there is no time to attend the medical examination and schedule the interview at another post. Many Russian applicants either miss their interviews or are forced to request a postponement or transfer. And of course, while we understand the situation that is going on right now between the United States, Russia, and everybody else involved, AILA, Association of Immigration Lawyers, or Immigration Lawyers Association, is asking whether it could be possible for Russians to, instead of doing it in Warsaw, Poland, travel to Albania, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Moldova, Montenegro, Serbia, or Turkey, which is not even all of the countries that Russians can travel visa-free right now and go to the U.S. embassies in those countries in order to get their in order to complete their immigrant visas interviews. The response from the Department of State: the department regrets that the actions of the Russian government, such as prohibiting the U.S. embassy in Moscow from the employing local staff. So basically, it's just pointing fingers. Oh, it's not us, it's Russians. So unfortunately, there isn't anything decent a response from the Department of State. They're just saying, oh, it's Russia's fault. There's nothing that we can do. That's really it. So at this very moment, for Russian nationals that do have immigrant visa petitions, these are families. Okay, we're not talking about Russian government. We're not talking about the actions of Russian government. We're not talking about really any of this. We're talking about families that have had these petitions for years. Most of the people that are subscribed to this channel are, they have their family immigration petitions, and they know how long these petitions take. These petitions take, if it takes a year, that is fantastic. It's super fast. If it takes 2 years, it's great. It's still really good. If it takes 3 years, it's still okay. It's not bad at all. Because most of these petitions, they take 5 years to 10 years to 15 years. So these people that are, the Russian nationals that have been waiting finally for these interviews, they have been waiting for years and years and years. So now that they are being, that they're going through this is, it isn't fair. It is not fair. Moving further, there were a few things that Immigration Lawyer Association, they asked about the situation in Haiti. Basically, they're saying that the embassy in Port-au-Prince must periodically shut down, that predictable and consistent visa adjudication may not be possible for the time being, which they say that it is incredibly volatile and politically sensitive situation, but they don't really, unfortunately, specify exactly why this embassy has to close, due in large part to the situation. Again, which situation unknown. Members have shared examples of, among other challenges, extended waits for both immigrant visa and non-immigrant visa interviews, parole and derivative of asylees, as well as cancellation of the interviews without prior notice and lack of response to urgent expedited requests via the US Travel Docs portal. And I did actually get a few comments regarding the interviews, specifically in Haiti. immigrant interviews being rescheduled for no reason. They have been already scheduled for a certain date, and then just a week before the interview it is rescheduled. And the questions about that is basically, would DOS provide exemptions and accommodations for minor students, asylum derivatives, or incapacitated person? And of course, to increase transparency and information sharing, would the embassy consider posting closure, reopenings, or security issues to Facebook and all any other social media platforms? And then the response from the Department of State: the embassy in Port-au-Prince has a dedicated inbox for all inquiries, which they clearly are not answering because we have questions of, expedited requests not being responded. We support its management of that current inbox and do not believe setting up a separate emergency email for certain applications is advisable under the circumstances. The embassy fully considers utilizing existing interview waiver authorities where appropriate. So basically, again, not much of the answer. There was also DOS allowing Iranian, Afghan, Russian, Ukrainian, and other homeless nationals to be seen at posts around the world, and that visa applicants can request to transfer their case to another embassy and or consulate. And basically the question is that, does DOS have ameliorative measures to be used at the post? This discretion in the visa process and documentary requirements for homeless nationals. Would post be willing to include Form DS-5535? Would post allow the applicants to present the DS-5535? And then the response is that consular office will request a DS-5535 only when necessary to determine eligibility. I know that most of the people, you can read through this. I would recommend checking it out. Staying on top of this information is very good, but most of the people are tuned into this video. I know you can see there's an update for FAM issues. There's an update for J visas, exchange visas, CSPA guidance, E visas, investment visas. But most of the people that are tuned into this video are interested in this particular one and if there are any updates. So let's take a look. Let's take a look if there's anything new. The discussions provided in the monthly visa bulletin are helpful and give some insight into the factors and information used to make determinations of visa availability. Before Charlie Oppenheim's retirement, these discussions had been supplemented with monthly chats with Charlie, as these follow-up discussions provided invaluable insight to thousands of visa applicants. And the question is basically, would they do something like that again, having a representative that basically discusses the visa bulletin? And the response is that the visa office continually evaluates the best way to provide publicly available statistics and appreciates your suggestion. So basically, no, they will not. To extend that, the numerical control division has calculated or anticipated these figures, and there is no public engagement on visa bulletin projections planned for their near future. What type of movement is expected for the remainder of this fiscal year 2023 and looking ahead for 2024 for family-based categories, especially F2A and F2B, and employment-based categories EB2, EB3, and EB4? Are the final action charge dates expected to reach the dates for filing charge dates in 2023? Response: for 2023, there will be some advancements in the family preference categories, and as a result, some of the application filing dates will also advance to prepare applicants for processing in 2024. Number used between state and USCIS have been robust throughout the first half of the fiscal year in the employment categories, and retrogressions are possible as the annual numerical limits are approached. It's too early to say what to expect in 2024. So basically, just a boilerplate generic response with no consideration to family categories for most part. We'll see some advancement. Yeah, we already seen some advancement, but what we to expect, we have no idea, unfortunately, from the Department of State. LA acknowledges and appreciate the removal of the special category for Northern Triangle countries under the EB4 category. So again, from family, we switched immediately to the investment because it is much more beneficial to the U.S. government rather than dealing with the families. Next question, again, about the investment, about the employment-based, not the investment, employment-based. The visa office is not currently able to provide a post-by-post breakdown of immigrant visa processing times. Of course we're not. some more investment, and then the criminal issues. So unfortunately, as you can see, there isn't much of the updates directly from the Department of State whenever it comes to answering the questions of what's going to be happening. We do have some decent updates regarding the obviously the process. First of all, it is really good that they are now not requiring those proof of vaccinations for the non-immigrant people, because that might take away the requirement for getting this COVID-19 vaccine during your medical examination before your immigration interview, which would be a huge plus to a lot of people, a lot of families that are waiting for to reunite with the beneficiaries that are going through, because first of all, in a lot of countries they don't have those required COVID-19 vaccines that are required by standard in order to have it in order to enter the country. So if it is taken away for non-immigrants, it might be taken care and taken away for the immigrants, the potential prospective immigrants that are going through this visa interviews. But as for the visa bulletin itself, the best way so far to do it is to actually go to the visa bulletin and look through the dates. If you're interested, I do have May 2023 visa bulletin update posted on this channel. If you want to see that, we are still waiting for June visa bulletin to come out. It will be hopefully in the next week or two that it will be coming out, so I will make a separate video on that as well. So for now, it was an update from the Department of State with their conversation with the Immigration Law Association. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below. I do have a separate podcast on this channel where I answer all of the questions from the comments pretty much every day. That's what I have been doing for the past probably a month or so. But thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time. God bless, and I will see you in the next video.